welcome to another edition of Funny Friday. I hope you're all having a great Friday. Today's joke, believe it or not, my mom sent it to me on TikTok. And the TikTok account that posted the original video, I believe it's called Lionel Lawson. Lionel Lawson. And if you want to find it, it's an older man wearing like a polo shirt. And he's wearing glasses. And he's just sitting at like a table and reading this joke from a little piece of paper. Well, the joke goes like this. Mr. and Mrs. Smith were struggling to conceive children, and they finally decided to use a surrogate father. Well, the morning that the surrogate father was supposed to arrive at their house, Mr. Smith was leaving for work, and he stopped and kissed his wife, and he said, "Now don't be nervous, everything's going to be all right. The man will be here very, very soon." He said, "I love you," and he left. Well, about 30 minutes later, just by chance, a baby photographer who was traveling door to door looking to make a sale knocked on her door. And she opened the door and he began to introduce himself, and she cut him off and said, "I already know why you're here. I've been expecting you." And he said, "Really? Well, that's good news." He said, "I specialize in babies." And she said, "Oh, yes, sir, that's a good thing. That's what my husband and I have been wanting." She said, "Come on in and have a seat." Well, they sat for a moment, and Mrs. Smith finally piped up, "So where do we start?" And he said, "Well, I'd like to start with a couple shots on the couch, maybe get a couple of shots in the bathtub, a couple more shots on the bed. Could be fun to get a couple shots on the living room floor. We can get all spread out." And she said, "Wow, the living room floor. I never thought of that one before. Maybe that's why it didn't work for my husband and I." And he said, "Well, ma'am, we can't all guarantee a good shot on the first try, you know." He said, "But if we try several different positions, and I shoot from 6 or 7 different angles, I think you'll be really satisfied with the results." And then he opened up his briefcase and he pulled out a portfolio of baby pictures. And he pointed at one and he said, "Now this one was done on top of a bus." She said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, ma'am." And he said, "And these twins, they turned out exceptionally well considering how difficult it was to work with their mother." She said, "It was difficult to work with their mother?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am." He said, "No matter what, I just couldn't satisfy her. I had to finally take her out to the park just to get the job done right." He said, "And she kept on yelling and screaming at me. It took us 3 hours to do this." He said, "People began to gather around and watch us. And as it began to get late, I had to start really rushing my shots." He said, "We were out there so long that squirrels began to nibble on my equipment. I had to pack it all in." She said, "Squirrels nibbled on your equipment?" He said, "Yes, ma'am, that is the God's honest truth." He said, "But now, if you're ready, I'll go ahead and get my tripod out and we'll get started immediately." And she said, "Tripod? You need a tripod?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am. See, my Canon is far too big to be held by hand." Mrs. Smith fainted right about that time. Thank you for watching this Funny Friday. I hope you really enjoyed it. I'll see you again next week on Bammed Up Comedy and things I think about BAM News in the next Funny Friday. Have a good weekend.